Torvik sat at his desk inside the Galactic Council's classification division, rubbing his temples with his 3 slender fingers. His eyes flickered across the glowing screen in front of him, where a planet profile was displayed in bold letters. Earth, Class 5 Deathworld. Something didn't add up. As a junior analyst, it was Torvik's job to check planetary classifications and ensure their accuracy. Most of the time, it was easy work. Class 1 planets were peaceful, mostly harmless worlds where nothing dangerous existed. Class 5 meant a planet had some risks. Maybe strong storms, aggressive wildlife, or unstable environments. But as Torvik read more about Earth, he realized something strange. This world should not be just a Class 5. The reports were filled with alarming details. Earth had unpredictable weather, massive storms, freezing blizzards, deadly heat waves, and something called tornadoes, which could rip apart entire cities. The planet's surface was unstable, shaking violently with earthquakes and splitting open with lava-filled eruptions. And the creatures. Torvik gulped as he scanned the list of Earth's animals. Some were large enough to swallow a being whole. Others carried poison strong enough to paralyze or even end a life within seconds. Microscopic organisms, invisible to the eye, could infect and destroy a body from the inside. Yet, despite all this, humans lived there. Not only did they survive, but they thrived. They built massive cities, explored their oceans, and even traveled beyond their planet, all while living in constant danger. Torvik frowned and tapped his communicator. "Supervisor Vorkin, I need to speak with you." A deep voice crackled through. "This better be important, Torvik." "It is," Torvik replied. "I think Earth's classification is wrong. It should be much higher than Class 5. Maybe 13, or even 14. There was a long silence. Then, Vorkin's annoyed sigh came through the speaker. "You're overthinking this. Earth has been Class 5 for centuries. If there was a mistake, someone would have noticed before you. But the data has been fine for generations. I suggest you stop wasting time and move on to your next assignment." The call ended. Torvik clenched his jaw. He knew what he saw. The numbers didn't lie. The danger levels were off the charts. But if the council refused to listen, how could he prove it? Then an idea formed in his mind. He would ask a human directly. Torvik pulled up the communication directory and searched for a human scientist. If anyone could explain Earth's dangers, it would be someone who lived through them. After a few minutes, he found a contact. Dr. Helen Moore, human researcher, Terra Biology Division. He sent a message, and to his surprise, the reply came within minutes. "Torvik, greetings, Dr. Moore. I am a junior analyst at the Galactic Council. I need information about Earth's natural dangers. Would you be willing to answer some questions?" Dr. Moore: "Sure. Always happy to talk about my homeworld. What do you want to know?" Torvik hesitated before typing. "Torvik, according to our records, Earth is classified as a Class 5 death world. But my research suggests it should be much higher. Would you agree?" There was a pause before Helen's response arrived. "Dr. Moore, wait. You think Earth is Class 5? Ha, that's cute." Torvik's body stiffened. That was not the reaction he expected. "Torvik, so you believe the classification is wrong?" Dr. Moore: "Oh, absolutely. Earth is a Naichi Mayar. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we were at least Class 13, maybe even 14. But hey, we're still here, so I guess that means we're good at surviving." Torvik felt a chill run down his spine. If a human, a species known for their toughness, thought their world was that dangerous, then how had this mistake gone unnoticed? His heart pounded as he typed his next message. "Torvik, can you provide examples? I need proof." Dr. Moore: "Oh, I have plenty. Let's start with the weather. Did you know Earth has something called a hurricane? It's a massive storm that can last for days, with winds strong enough to tear apart entire cities. And don't get me started on earthquakes. Sometimes the ground just shakes. No warning, no reason. It just decides to move. Torvik's hands trembled as he read. Dr. Moore. Oh, and we also have giant sea creatures, insects with venom that can melt flesh, and plants that will eat you if you're not careful. Honestly, I'm surprised more of us aren't dead. Torvik swallowed hard. This was worse than he thought. If even humans considered their planet terrifying. Then the Galactic Council had made a big mistake. Torvik sat frozen at his desk, rereading Dr. Helen Moore's messages. The more he read, the more his 3 hearts pounded. How had the Galactic Council overlooked this? How could they classify Earth, a world filled with deadly storms, shifting ground, and creatures that could devour a person whole, as only a Class 5 death world? He had to know more. Taking a deep breath, he activated the holographic communicator. The screen flickered, and a few seconds later, Dr. Helen Moore appeared. She was a middle-aged human with short brown hair and sharp blue eyes. She smiled at him. Torvik, right? You look a little pale. Everything okay? Torvik cleared his throat. Yes, Thank you for speaking with me. I need to confirm something. You truly believe Earth is more dangerous than the official classification? Helen chuckled. Oh, absolutely. I've lived there my whole life. Trust me, if Earth isn't a Class 13 or 14 death world, then something's wrong with your system. Torvik hesitated. Could you explain in detail? Helen leaned back in her chair, grinning. All right, let's start with something simple. Weather. You aliens always have controlled climates, right? Torvik nodded. Most advanced species had terraformed their home planets for stability. Well, Helen continued, Earth doesn't work that way. We have hurricanes, giant storms that can last for days, with winds so strong they throw cars through the air. We have tornadoes, spinning columns of wind that can rip buildings apart in seconds. We have blizzards that can freeze a person solid, and heat waves that can cook you alive. Torvik swallowed. But surely your people avoid these disasters. Helen laughed. Oh no, we live right in the middle of them. Some people even chase tornadoes for fun. Torvik's eyes widened. For fun? Yeah. We call them storm chasers. They drive straight into the worst storms just to study them. Some of them even film it so others can watch. Torvik's hands trembled as he wrote notes. Humans willingly run toward death for entertainment. Helen continued. And that's just the weather. Ever heard of volcanoes? Torvik nodded. Yes, molten rock erupts from the ground. Dangerous, but rare. Helen shook her head. Not on Earth. We have a lot of them. Sometimes, an eruption can destroy an entire region. And you never know when one might explode. Some of them have been quiet for hundreds of years, but any day they could wake up and wipe out everything around them. Torvik felt lightheaded. And humans live near them. Helen grinned. Of course, the land around volcanoes is great for farming. People take the risk because it's worth it. Torvik couldn't believe what he was hearing. You mean to tell me that humans willingly live near exploding mountains? Yup. Helen sipped from a cup. But that's nothing compared to our wildlife. Torvik's hands twitched. Your wildlife. Helen smirked. Oh, you're going to love this. Let's talk about Australia. Torvik tapped on his console, pulling up records on Australia. His screen filled with data, and he nearly fainted. Deadliest snakes in the galaxy. Australia has them. Spiders the size of a hand, also in Australia. Birds that can gut a person with a single kick. Australia again. Even the rivers and oceans are filled with creatures that can kill in seconds. Torvik felt dizzy. How does anyone survive there? Helen shrugged. We just adapt. Learn the dangers. Keep moving forward. Torvik wiped sweat from his brow. This is more than I expected. Helen laughed. You're still not convinced, are you? All right, let me tell you something really crazy. Torvik stiffened. Crazier than what you've already said. Oh, definitely, Helen said. See, on Earth, we have creatures that humans have actually wiped out. We call it extinction. Torvik blinked. You mean you hunted them to extinction? Sometimes, Helen admitted. Other times, we just changed the environment so much that they couldn't survive. But here's the crazy part. Some of those creatures were huge, powerful, and deadly. And you know what we did. Torvik leaned in, dreading the answer. Helen grinned. We studied their bones, recreated them, and put them in museums. Some people even want to bring them back to life, just to see what would happen. Torvik's blood ran cold. You mean to say, humans destroyed some of their deadliest enemies, and now they want to bring them back? Helen nodded. For science. Torvik sat in silence, staring at his screen. His entire world had changed in one conversation. He now knew the truth. Earth wasn't just a death world. The real danger wasn't the planet. It was the humans. Torvik barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw images of Earth's horrors. Storms ripping apart cities, volcanoes swallowing landscapes, venomous creatures lurking in the dark. But the worst part wasn't Earth itself. It was the humans. They didn't just survive in that chaos. They thrived. The next morning, Torvik arrived at his office in the Galactic Council's Classification Division, still shaken. He had to confirm the truth. His conversation with Dr. Helen Moore had given him terrifying insights, but now he needed data. With trembling fingers, he accessed the Council's biological database and searched for Earth's fauna and flora. The first file that appeared made his blood run cold. File: Earth's microorganisms. The invisible threat. Torvik clicked it open. Earth's microorganisms are highly adaptive, able to survive extreme conditions. Some can withstand radiation. Others thrive in acidic or frozen environments. Several bacteria and viruses have historically wiped out entire populations. Torvik's throat dried. Even Earth's smallest life forms were deadly. He scrolled down. One section caught his eye. A particular microorganism, known as tardigrade, can survive in space without protection. Torvik stared at the screen, a creature that could survive the vacuum of space. Even the most advanced species in the galaxy needed protective suits, but Earth had creatures that could exist in the cold emptiness of the cosmos naturally. He quickly opened the next file. File: Earth's Animal Kingdom. Predators of all shapes and sizes. The images alone made Torvik's heart race. He saw a grizzly bear, a shark, a jaguar, a crocodile. All creatures with massive teeth, claws, or sheer brute force. But what disturbed him most was the diversity of predators. Most death worlds had one or two dominant predators. Earth had hundreds. They roamed the land, swam in the seas, and even soared through the skies. Then he saw a file titled Big Cats of Earth. Curious, he opened it. Earth has several feline species that are efficient hunters, including lions, tigers, leopards, and jaguars. These creatures rely on stealth, speed, and immense strength to take down prey larger than themselves. Torvik gulped. Stealth, speed, strength. That was something out of a warrior training manual, but Earth's animals were born with it. The next entry chilled him even more. Lions, known as the kings of the jungle, hunt in coordinated groups called prides. Torvik nearly fell out of his chair. These creatures work together. A single predator was bad enough, but coordinated hunting, that was military-level strategy. Taking a shaky breath, he moved on to a new file. File: Earth's Flora. Nature's Silent Killers. Torvik expected this to be less terrifying. After all, plants were just plants. He was wrong. Many plants on Earth have evolved to be highly dangerous. Some produce toxins strong enough to paralyze or kill within minutes. Others use deception to lure prey, trapping them in digestive fluids. Torvik's vision blurred. Plants that eat living creatures. That wasn't supposed to happen outside of horror simulations. He scrolled further and saw an entry called the Manchineel tree. The Manchineel tree, found in some regions of Earth, is so toxic that merely standing under it in the rain can cause severe burns. Its fruit, which resembles an apple, is highly poisonous. Even the smoke from burning its wood can cause blindness. Torvik felt lightheaded. A tree that could blind, poison, and burn. And humans just lived near it. His hand shook as he typed his final search. File. Humans versus Earth. How they survive. Despite Earth's extreme dangers, humans have adapted through intelligence, endurance, and resilience. They have mastered fire, built shelters, developed medicine, and learned to control even the deadliest creatures. Unlike most species, humans do not rely on natural weapons. Instead, they create tools that allow them to dominate any environment. This adaptability makes them one of the most formidable species in the galaxy. Torvik slumped back in his chair, eyes wide. It all made sense now. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a proving ground, a place so brutal that only the strongest could survive. And humans, they weren't just survivors. They were conquerors. A beep from his communicator startled him. A message appeared from Dr. Helen Moore. Helen, hey, Torvik. Did some reading. What do you think? Torvik stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Finally, with trembling fingers, he typed. Torvik, I think Earth should be classified as a Class 13 death world. Maybe even 14. Helen's reply came instantly. Helen, told you. But don't worry, Torvik. We're friendly. Most of the time. Torvik gulped. He wasn't sure if she was joking. And that terrified him. Torvik sat frozen in his chair, his 3 hearts pounding in his chest. The data was clear. Earth was not a simple Class 5 death world. It was far worse. The planet itself was dangerous enough, but its inhabitants were the true anomaly. Humans didn't just survive on this terrifying world. They thrived, adapted, and dominated. He knew what he had to do. Taking a deep breath, he gathered his research files and prepared a formal request for reclassification. He would present it to the Galactic Council's classification board immediately. If the Council truly understood Earth, they would have no choice but to upgrade its status. A few hours later, Torvik stood before the massive doors of the Council chamber. The room inside was filled with high-ranking officials from across the galaxy, elders, scientists, and military strategists. Their long robes and glowing data screens gave the chamber an air of authority. At the center of the room sat High Administrator Vorkin, his expression as unreadable as ever. Torvik took a deep breath and stepped forward. Junior Analyst Torvik, you have requested an urgent review of a planetary classification, Vorkin said in a slow, measured tone. State your case. Torvik nodded, activating his presentation. Holographic screens flickered to life, displaying Earth's violent storms, deadly creatures, and unpredictable disasters. The council members murmured among themselves as the evidence unfolded before them. I have reviewed the data thoroughly, Torvik began. Earth has been classified as a Class 5 death world for centuries. However, new analysis shows this is a grave mistake. Earth's natural environment alone qualifies it as at least Class 10. But when you consider its dominant species, humans, the classification must be much higher. At least Class 13, possibly Class 14. Vorkin raised an eyebrow. Explain. Torvik tapped a button, and images of Earth's most terrifying creatures filled the air. Sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes, and massive felines. Earth is home to some of the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy, Torvik said. Yet humans have not only survived among them, they have hunted and tamed them. Some humans even keep these creatures as pets. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Torvik continued, switching to images of natural disasters. Hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. The planet itself is unstable. The land shifts without warning. The air and water can turn lethal. The very climate can freeze or burn a being alive. Yet humans have conquered all of it. They build cities in these danger zones. They continue to expand despite the risks. The murmurs grew louder. Some council members looked deeply unsettled. Others frowned, skeptical. Finally, Torvik played his final piece of evidence, a recorded conversation with Dr. Helen Moore. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Some of the most dangerous creatures on our planet. We wiped them out. And now we study their bones and put them in museums. Some of us even want to bring them back to life, just to see what happens. Torvik let the words sink in before speaking again. Humans are not just survivors, he said. They are conquerors. No other species in the galaxy has faced such an environment and thrived the way they have. If Earth is not at least a Class 13 death world, then what is? Silence filled the chamber. Then, after a long pause, Vorkin shook his head. Your findings are interesting, junior analyst, he said. However, we cannot simply change a planet's classification based on dramatic storytelling. Torvik's eyes widened. But this is not storytelling. The data, Vorkin interrupted, has been stable for centuries. If Earth were truly as dangerous as you claim, we would have known long ago. Torvik clenched his fists. The Council never properly reviewed Earth's classification. You simply assumed it was a lower-tier death world. This is a dangerous oversight. A few Council members nodded in agreement, but Vorkin remained firm. Earth is already restricted under Exploration Protocol 72. No unnecessary interference is allowed. What more do you want? Torvik took a deep breath. I want the truth to be acknowledged. If the Council refuses to change the classification, then at least admit that we have underestimated humans. Vorkin's expression darkened. And if we have? Torvik hesitated. Then he spoke carefully. Then we must proceed with caution, because if humans are as adaptable as they seem, then one day they won't just survive the galaxy. Torvik met Vorkin's gaze, voice steady. They will rule it. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, without another word, Vorkin stood up. This meeting is adjourned, he declared, turning away. The Council will take your report under consideration. The decision was final. The classification would not change. Torvik's shoulders slumped. He had lost. Or had he? As he left the chamber, he noticed something. The other analysts, researchers, and even some council members looked nervous. Torvik realized something important. The council feared change. But now, the idea had been planted. The truth had been spoken aloud. And no matter how hard they try to ignore it, the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. Torvik sat in his small office, staring blankly at his data screen. His argument had been dismissed. Earth would remain classified as a mere Class 5 death world, despite all the evidence proving otherwise. The Council had ignored the truth. But Torvik couldn't. He sighed and leaned back in his chair. His mind raced with thoughts. Why didn't the Council act? Was it fear? Was it arrogance? Maybe they simply didn't want to admit they had been wrong for centuries. A notification blinked on his screen. A message from Dr. Helen Moore. Helen, I saw the meeting report. They denied the classification change. Torvik hesitated before replying. Torvik, yes. They refused to acknowledge the danger Earth poses. Helen's response came quickly. Helen, classic bureaucrats. They won't listen until it's too late. Torvik sighed. She wasn't wrong. Just as he was about to shut off his screen, another notification appeared. This one was different. It was marked urgent. Torvik opened the file and scanned the contents. His breath caught in his throat. A Council scouting ship had gone missing near Earth's solar system. Location: Galactic Council Outpost 17. Captain Yeltrix of the GCS Pathfinder stood before the communications officer, his antennae twitching in frustration. "You're telling me we lost contact with the scouting vessel?" Yeltrix asked. "Yes, Captain," the officer replied. "The last transmission was garbled, but we picked up a single word before the signal was lost." Yeltrix narrowed his eyes. "What word?" The officer hesitated. Then he played back the transmission. Static filled the room, followed by a panicked voice. "Humans." Then, silence. Yeltrix felt a chill run down his spine. The crew in the command center exchanged uneasy glances. What was the mission of that scouting vessel? Yeltrix asked. "Routine observation," the officer replied. "They were ordered to collect updated environmental data on Earth. Nothing more." Yeltrix frowned. Observation missions weren't supposed to be dangerous. Unless the crew had gotten too close. He turned toward the officer. "Send a report to the Council immediately. And tell the fleet to stay away from Earth until we understand what happened." The officer hesitated. "Captain, do you think the humans did something?" Yeltrix didn't answer. He didn't have to. Everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Back at the Council headquarters, Torvik read the report twice to make sure he wasn't misunderstanding. A scouting ship had vanished near Earth, and the last word they transmitted was humans. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Had the humans captured them? Destroyed the ship? Warned them to leave? There was no way to know. Torvik quickly typed a message to Helen. "Torvik, a Council ship just disappeared near Earth. The last message mentioned humans. Do you know anything about this?" Minutes passed before Helen responded. "Helen, no idea. But if they got too close, well, let's just say Earth doesn't like uninvited guests." Torvik's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Torvik, are you saying humans attacked them?" Helen's reply was immediate. "Helen, I'm saying humans have protocols for unexpected visitors. Your Council should have been more careful." Torvik felt his heart's pound. The Council thought of humans as primitive compared to other galactic species. But now, a ship was missing, and no one knew what happened. And Helen's words suggested one terrifying possibility. Maybe the humans knew they were being watched. Torvik quickly composed a report and sent it directly to High Administrator Vorkin. If the Council wouldn't listen before, maybe now that it would take Earth seriously. Minutes later, a reply came. "Vorkin, your concern is noted. Do not spread unnecessary panic. The matter is under investigation." Torvik clenched his fists. They were ignoring the warning. Again. But this time, it wouldn't just be a political mistake. It might be a fatal one. Torvik sat in his dimly lit office, staring at the response from High Administrator Vorkin. "Your concern is noted. Do not spread unnecessary panic. The matter is under investigation." Torvik clenched his jaw. The Council was ignoring the danger. Again. A scouting ship had disappeared near Earth, and yet they acted as if it was a minor inconvenience. But Torvik knew better. He had read the last transmission. Humans. The fear in that final message haunted him. What exactly had happened to the crew? Were they captured? Were they eliminated? Torvik exhaled and opened a private communication line. He needed to talk to someone who would give him the truth. Someone on Earth. Location: Earth, United Nations Space Defense Center. Dr. Helen Moore sat at her desk, reading over encrypted messages from various human intelligence agencies. A small notification blinked on her screen. "Incoming transmission. Galactic Council Analyst Torvik." Helen smirked. So he finally reached out. She accepted the call, and Torvik's face appeared on her screen. He looked tense. "Torvik," she greeted casually. "Did the Council change their mind yet?" Torvik rubbed his temples. "No. They're investigating, but they refuse to treat this as an emergency." Helen sighed. "Typical. So, what do you need from me?" Torvik leaned forward. "What happened to the scouting ship?" Helen hesitated. Then she asked, How much do you really want to know? Torvik frowned. Everything. Helen sighed again, then lowered her voice. The ship was detected the moment it entered our solar system, she admitted. We monitored their movements, their scans, even their transmission logs. Torvik's eyes widened. You knew they were there. Helen chuckled. Torvik, we know whenever a new satellite gets launched into orbit. Did you really think we wouldn't notice a foreign spacecraft snooping around? Torvik gulped. Then, what did you do to them? Helen's expression turned serious. We didn't attack them, if that's what you're thinking. But we did send them a warning. Torvik's heart pounded. What kind of warning? Helen leaned closer. Let's just say we sent a clear message, one they couldn't ignore. Torvik's fingers trembled. And that's when they disappeared. Helen didn't answer immediately. She simply smiled. Torvik swallowed hard. The ship hadn't just vanished. The humans had made it disappear. Galactic Council Headquarters. Emergency meeting. High Administrator Vorkin stood at the head of the chamber, his face unreadable. Before him, a group of council officials sat in tense silence. A military commander spoke first. We have sent multiple distress signals to the missing ship. No response. A second officer added, no wreckage, no escape pods, no debris. It's as if the ship never existed. Vorkin's expression darkened. That is impossible. A ship does not simply vanish. One of the scientists hesitated before speaking. There is one species in the galaxy capable of such a clean removal. All eyes turned toward him. The scientist continued. Humans. The room fell silent. Finally, Vorkin exhaled sharply. This does not confirm anything. We must not assume Earth is responsible. A political officer frowned. Sir, the last transmission from the ship mentioned humans. We cannot ignore this. Vorkin's gaze hardened. Then find the ship. Find proof before making accusations. This council will not be led by fear. But deep down, even Vorkin felt uneasy. Torvik's office. Torvik ended the call with Helen and stared at his screen. His entire worldview was shifting. Humans had allowed the scouting ship to approach. They had watched it. Then, when they decided the ship had seen enough, they erased it. The council still thought humans were a primitive species struggling to reach the stars. But Torvik knew the truth now. Humans weren't struggling. They were waiting. Waiting for the moment when the galaxy finally realized what Earth really was. And by then, it might be too late. Torvik could not sleep. The moment his call with Helen ended, his mind had been racing with questions. What had the humans done to the scouting ship? There was no wreckage, no distress signal, nothing left behind. It was as if the ship had never existed. But ships didn't just vanish in space. Torvik knew one thing for sure. The council was making a mistake by ignoring Earth. He decided he could not wait any longer. If the council refused to act, he would find the truth himself. Galactic Council Military Command. Investigation briefing. The investigation into the missing scouting vessel had gone nowhere. No new signals had been detected, and every search probe sent toward Earth's solar system had been disabled or lost contact. Commander Velkar, a veteran officer with decades of experience, stood before the council members. His expression was grim. We have sent multiple scout drones toward Earth's region, Velkar reported. All of them have either gone silent or been destroyed. High Administrator Vorkin leaned forward. Destroyed. By whom? Velkar hesitated. We cannot say for certain. But given the location and the last recorded transmission of the missing vessel, a tense silence filled the chamber. Everyone knew what Velkar was implying. A political officer finally spoke. Are you suggesting that the humans are responsible? Velkar gave a slow nod. Yes, and I believe they are far more advanced than we assumed. Vorkin narrowed his eyes. That is a bold claim, Commander. Velkar took a deep breath. I wouldn't make such a claim without proof. He tapped a control panel, and a holographic recording appeared in the air. The room fell silent, as the council members watched the last recorded footage from one of the lost scout drones. The drone had been approaching Earth's orbit when suddenly, a shadow moved across the screen. Then, without warning, static, the feed was cut off. No explosion, no warning, just silence. Velkar turned to the council. The humans are aware of us. They are watching, and they have the capability to erase anything they do not want us to see. Some of the officials looked at each other, concern in their eyes. Vorkin, however, remained calm. Do we have any evidence that the humans are behind this? Velkar's jaw tightened. High Administrator, at some point, we must stop ignoring the obvious. We have underestimated Earth, and now we are seeing the consequences. Vorkin tapped his fingers on the desk, deep in thought. Finally, he spoke. Until we have solid evidence, we will not accuse Earth of any wrongdoing. Continue the investigation, but do not provoke them. Velkar clenched his fists but nodded. The council was still refusing to accept the truth. And soon, it might be too late. Torvik's risky move. Back in his office, Torvik made a decision. The council had failed to act, but he would not sit and wait. Torvik opened a secure communication channel and sent an encrypted message to Helen. Torvik, I need proof. Something that will force the council to take Earth seriously. Can you help me? Minutes passed before she responded. Helen, you're playing a dangerous game, Torvik. Are you sure about this? Torvik hesitated, but only for a moment. Then he typed his reply. Torvik, yes, I need to know the truth. Helen's response was short. Helen, then watch closely. We're about to send a message of our own. Torvik's breath caught in his throat. What did she mean? What were the humans about to do? He wouldn't have to wait long to find out. Galactic Council Fleet. Patrol near Earth's sector. Captain Renar of the Galactic Council's security fleet was overseeing routine patrols when his ship's alarms suddenly blared. Incoming energy signature detected. A crew member shouted. Renar frowned. From where? The officer hesitated, then looked up with a pale expression. Sir, it's coming from Earth. Renar rushed to the main display screen. A massive energy surge was pulsing from the planet's surface. The crew began to panic. That's not natural. A second officer gasped. Sir, look. The ship's sensors picked up something moving in Earth's orbit. A massive, unidentified object was decloaking. It was a human warship. Sleek, dark, silent. Torvik's eyes remained glued to his data screen, his fingers tense over the keyboard. What did Helen mean by sending a message? He had expected a diplomatic response, maybe an encrypted transmission, a hidden warning. Not this. The Galactic Council fleet had just detected a massive energy surge from Earth. Something huge was decloaking in orbit. Torvik's breath caught in his throat as reports flooded in. A warship, a human warship, had been hiding right above Earth, completely undetectable until now. Galactic Council Fleet. Immediate response. Captain Renar stood frozen, staring at the dark, silent behemoth now visible on his ship's main display. By the stars, one of his officers whispered. No one in the council had ever seen a human warship before. Most believed Earth didn't even have interstellar travel yet. But now, here it was. Massive. Unmarked. Watching. Sir, we're receiving a transmission. An officer shouted. It's coming from the human ship. Renar's heart pounded. Put it through. The screen flickered. A human figure appeared. A woman. She had short black hair, calm eyes, and an expression that was neither hostile nor friendly. This is Captain Sarah Kovic of the UNSC Revenant, she said, her voice steady. You are trespassing in restricted space. Renar swallowed hard. Restricted? By whose authority? Captain Kovic tilted her head slightly. By Earth's authority. Silence. Renar exhaled slowly. We did not mean to trespass. We were simply investigating. The disappearance of your scouting ship. Kovic finished for him. Yes, we are aware. Renar's hands tightened into fists. Then you know what happened. Kovic didn't blink. Your ship ignored multiple warnings to leave our solar system. We took action. Renar felt a chill run down his spine. You destroyed them. For the first time, Kovic's expression hardened. No, we are not murderers. But we do not tolerate spies. Another officer whispered, Sir, does that mean the crew is still alive? Renar looked back at the screen. Where are they? Kovic was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. They are in our custody, alive, unharmed. The tension on Renar's ship shifted. Relief. The missing crew was not dead. But the message was clear. The humans had complete control over the situation. Galactic Council. Emergency meeting. The moment the news reached the council, chaos erupted. They captured the crew. This is an act of aggression. They could have killed them, but they didn't. That means they're willing to negotiate. This proves it. Earth is far more advanced than we thought. Why did we underestimate them for so long? High Administrator Vorkin raised his hand, silencing the room. Enough, he said firmly. He turned toward the display screen, where a grainy image of the human warship loomed. Vorkin took a deep breath. So, he muttered, mostly to himself, the humans have been hiding their true power all along. The realization was unsettling. For centuries, the Galactic Council had assumed Earth was just another primitive world. Dangerous, yes, but not organized. But now that they knew the truth, Earth was not weak. It was waiting. And now, the waiting was over. Torvik's warning. Torvik's hands trembled as he typed another urgent message to Helen. Torvik, what is your endgame here? The Council will not ignore this. Helen's reply came seconds later. Helen, that's the point. Torvik. Torvik's heartbeat quickened. Torvik, you're forcing them to acknowledge Earth. Helen, we warned your people. They ignored us. Now we make sure they listen. Torvik felt both fear and admiration. The humans had played this perfectly. For years, the Council dismissed Earth, laughed at its chaos, ignored its warnings. Now, in a single move, the humans had forced the entire galaxy to pay attention. Torvik exhaled. The Council would have no choice now. They would have to negotiate with Earth. And for the first time, Torvik wondered, who truly held the power in this galaxy? A heavy silence filled the Galactic Council chamber as the transmission from Captain Sarah Kovic ended. The humans had spoken. They had captured the missing scouting crew. They had disabled every probe the Council sent. And now, they had revealed their warship, showing the entire galaxy that Earth was no longer a weak, primitive world. They were a hidden superpower. High Administrator Vorkin took a slow, deep breath. His sharp eyes scanned the room, reading the silent panic on every face. The Council had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated Earth. And now, Earth had made sure they would never be ignored again. Galactic Council emergency debate. The chamber erupted into arguments. This is unacceptable. The humans must return our people immediately. They didn't kill them. That means they are willing to negotiate. They had an invisible warship right over Earth. What else are they hiding? Vorkin finally raised his hand, demanding silence. Enough. The voices died down. Vorkin turned to Commander Velkar, the Council's military expert. If we sent a fleet to Earth, would we succeed? Velkar hesitated. Then, with great difficulty, he answered. No. Shock rippled through the room. We know nothing about their true military strength, Velkar continued. They have already shown they can detect and disable our technology. If they have warships capable of cloaking, then they might have hundreds, and we wouldn't even know. A cold realization settled over the Council. A war with Earth wouldn't just be difficult, it would be suicidal. Vorkin exhaled. Then war is not an option. Another official frowned. Then what do you suggest? We just Accept that a death world holds our people hostage. Vorkin's eyes narrowed. We negotiate. Torvik's relief. Torvik had been watching the entire debate in silence. He had warned the council. He had tried to make them understand. But they had ignored him until now. A message from Helen popped up on his screen. Helen, they're ready to talk, aren't they? Torvik sighed. Of course they were. Torvik, yes. The council will open diplomatic talks with Earth. You've forced their hand. Helen's response came instantly. Helen, good. Now we set the terms. Torvik leaned back in his chair. The humans weren't just protecting their world. They were changing the balance of power in the galaxy. And for the first time in history, Earth would have a seat at the table. Galactic Council's transmission to Earth. The Council's final message to Earth was carefully written. It was not a demand. It was not a threat. It was a request. To the leaders of Earth, we acknowledge our past miscalculations and wish to open formal diplomatic channels. The safe return of our people will be seen as an act of good faith. We hope for peaceful cooperation. It was the most humble message the Council had ever sent to a new species. And they all knew why. Earth was not just another planet. Earth was a Class 13 death world. Maybe 14. And now, the galaxy would never forget it. Epilogue. The future of the galaxy. Days later, the missing scouting crew was returned, unharmed, well-fed, and with a simple message. Stay out of our solar system unless invited. The Council complied. They had no choice. Torvik watched as the first official diplomatic meeting between Earth and the Council was scheduled. Earth had forced its way onto the galactic stage, and from now on, the galaxy would fear and respect humanity. The era of Earth's secrecy was over. Now, it was time for the era of power. The end.